Just curious, what is the norm? Also, what year did you propose? Story 1. $250 plus $150 for the matching wedding band. The idea that you need to spend many paychecks on a ring is purely propaganda from the jewelry industry. Nothing is worse than starting a marriage in debt because of a ring or wedding costs. Edit to add. This was early 2017. Story 2. The more you spend, the more likely you are to get a divorce. Just throwing it out there. Story 3. I made it. About $200 in materials and around 40 hours of work. Probably another 30 to 35 hours in research as well. Story 4. We never proposed to each other. We just talked about our lives and our goals. We both agreed we would get married in the future, and we eventually did. We only spent money on our wedding rings. Story 5. $4,200 in 2024. We opted for lab-grown diamonds, and she receives compliments on it constantly. Natural diamonds would have run close to $20,000 to $30,000 for the same ring. We decided on lab-grown diamonds because we prefer children not losing fingers or limbs for a gemstone. Story 6. $500 in 2020. It was a lab-grown moissanite ring. She gets compliments on it everywhere she goes, and nobody has ever assumed it was not a real diamond. My mom thought I was crazy, but I was trying to grow my business during the pandemic. I did not have much money, and this was what I could reasonably afford at the time. She loves it, and that is all that matters. We are happily married. We looked at rings together for fun at the mall once before I proposed, and she agreed that $3,000 for a ring was ridiculous and that she would be too afraid to wear it. As a result of saving so much money on the ring, we were able to devote more money to our wedding and honeymoon. Story 7. £45. Wedding cost £1,000. We went abroad and eloped because we were broke students, and that was all the money we had in the world. Would not have it any other way. Story 8. I bought her an antique ring. It is an Art Deco style ring made in the early 1900s with an old world European cut diamond. It is not big, around 0.3 carats. It cost around $2,300. I was able to use some silver from my job in precious metals and trade for it, so I did not spend any cash from an account. By the way, I support getting older rings and reusing what is available rather than giving more money to the diamond industry. I love that I was able to find an antique ring with a diamond that was cut in the early 1900s. This means it is definitely flawed because microscopes were not available at the time. It is flawed and not cut perfectly, but it was cut by hand. I think it is cool and special, and she loves it as well. Story 9. Please get a lab-grown diamond. They are real diamonds, identical to mine diamonds in every way except that they are grown in a lab instead of in the ground. They cost a small fraction of what an unethical natural diamond costs. You can spend less on the ring or get a much bigger diamond for the same price. The average cost of an engagement ring in the United States is $5,000 to $6,000. You can and should ignore the original 1-month salary rule, the later inflated 2-month rule, or the misleading 3-month salary rule. Spend what you want and what you can afford. Story 10. $1,100. Moissanite. She picked it out. I even asked if she wanted something more expensive. Her response was, "Why would I do that when we can put that money towards our honeymoon so we can have a better time together?" It made me feel even more confident in my decision to propose. We got married in 2023 after 8 years together. Story 11. Engagement was inexpensive, about $400. When we decided to get married, I offered her a choice: a fancy engagement and wedding set or a brand new motorcycle. She chose a red motorcycle. Story 12. In 2021, $600 for the gold ring. We used gems extracted from my grandmother's ring and her grandmother's ring. More sentimental value, less money to exploitative diamond corporations. Story 13. $700 in 2012. I totally fell for the gimmick of giving subpar stones really attractive names from K. Raspberry garnet with chocolate diamonds in strawberry gold. But you know what? She adores the ring 12 years later and gets lots of compliments on the color and sparkle. It was much more affordable than a large clear diamond. Story 14. A few $100s from a pawn shop, and we got married at the courthouse. We were broke with a 1-year-old but fighting the world together. Story 15. $8,000 sold to me as vintage, which is what she wanted. Found out 2 years later it was definitely not vintage and was from a large retail jewelry store. Complained and received $5,000 back. Win. Story 16. $3,000 for just the engagement ring. Complete waste of money. If she loves you, she will say yes with a ring pop of her favorite flavor. That was 2010 to 2011. Story 17. £30 in 1988. A wedding ring cost £40 in 1990. Still married 35 years later, so just over £1 a year. I don't see the sense in normal working people spending large amounts of money on rings when that money could be used much better elsewhere to support a lasting life together. Story 18. Just a few hundred for the setting. My dad smuggled some diamonds back from an Africa trip when I was a kid. Story 19. $300 in 2008. We were still kids and the cost was not an issue. Later on, I bought her a nicer one. She loved the first as much as the second. If she is a keeper, the ring is not worth worrying about. She knows what you can and cannot do. Her family had a problem with the original, but forget that noise. Story 20. Kidding. My mom left me 1/2 of some diamond earrings and used the stone. So minimal. Story 21. She loves it, but there was the same style with a bigger gem. I would have preferred to get her that at the time, but it was twice the price and I did not have it then. Story 22. Don't remember, but less than $1,000. We had an agreement that we did not want to spend all that money on just one ring that she would only wear for special events or never again because she knows her tastes will change. Since we got married on a leap day, every leap year anniversary will be a big trip and we will get a new ring that marks the event. Our first leap anniversary was last year. We went to New Orleans and she got a voodoo stone ring. It is pretty neat, it changes color according to the light. I think it was under $250. Story 23. $2,000 in 2019. I never bought the De Beers 2-month salary marketing line, and that was the number that made sense to me. Story 24. About £150 last year. She did not want an expensive ring. Instead, I took her out for a Michelin star lunch and then a few days holiday. The cost of the ring is irrelevant or should be irrelevant. It is a marker of the stage of the relationship, not the quality of the relationship. Many people choose an expensive ring, but the relationship has far lower value. Story 25. In 2002, I replaced it with a nicer one that was more her style about 15 years later. That one was on sale for about $500. I feel sorry for the men who have to spend thousands on a ring. If she is not willing to be with you unless you get a super expensive ring, then in my opinion, she is not the right girl. But that is just my view. Your experience may vary. Story 26. What I, the husband, thought was on the lower end turned out to be on the higher end once I saw everyone else's. They paid around $6,500 after I got a settlement. The cost would not have been that big of a stretch either. I just remember my ex telling me that if it was not $8,000, she did not want it. So, I guess $6,500 seemed cheap. Story 27. $1,500 in 2006. I later bought a much nicer center diamond for it for an anniversary. Boys, do not ever marry a woman who insists on 3-month salary for a ring when you are just starting your lives. It means she has her priorities wrong. This woman helped me through career struggles and supported me when I got serious about paying off our house early after I started earning more. Now we travel and enjoy our lives. She has the smallest ring in her friend circle but is the only one traveling to South Africa, Austria, Germany, and Switzerland this year. Story 28. $18,000 for the engagement ring and $2,800 for the band. It was in 2022, a fairly flawless natural diamond. Now you can get the exact same thing in lab-grown for $6,000. Story 29. In 2001, about $30,000 for just the stone. I obtained it from a diamond broker who imported it from Tel Aviv to the United States. Story 30. About €8. It was a promise ring so she could pick out her own. She said she would rather use the money on a holiday, so we did. Story 31. $200. It was not crazy. We just wanted one that looked good and fit her style, and, if I do say so myself, I nailed it. She still receives compliments on it regularly nearly 15 years later. Story 32. My husband paid $1,100 for a 1-carat diamond ring, including the wedding band, from a jeweler friend. Honestly, it is the prettiest ring set and matches me perfectly. He bought it in 2024. Story 33. $5,400 in 2020. Not what I would have picked, but my wife was particular about her jewelry, so we chose together. She was happy with it, so that was all that mattered. She was surprised at how expensive it was, but I had to convince her that it was okay. Story 34. Around €700 in 2021. She says she does not want a more expensive one because she would be afraid to lose it. She is pretty frugal too. Story 35. 29 years ago, it was around $2,500. I was a student and saved up where I could to pay for the ring. It bought us an engagement ring that is 18-karat gold with small diamond studs along the top, and the wedding ring with a pear-shaped diamond. I cannot recall the size, but we prioritized color and clarity over size. The wedding ring has diamond studs on either side. The main diamond fits over the engagement ring, and they are now joined together. I have no idea what a ring like that would cost today. It was a lot back then, especially given that I was a student with very limited income. We are very glad of the purchase today and do not miss the money or a larger diamond. Story 36. Woman here. I've seen engagement rings I like for €100 as long as the ring isn't going to turn my finger green and I have some say in the style. I have small, stumpy fingers. I would be very happy. I've been searching for rings hoping he proposes. Haha. Or what could be really fun is going to a pawn shop or secondhand jeweler and finding something different for cheap. Same with the wedding event and dress. Like it's all for a couple of hours, so why waste all that money on a wedding? I know plenty of people who spent €50,000 plus on their weddings. It's ridiculous. Story 37. My engagement ring cost about $2,500. It is custom made with 3 gemstones my husband bought that all have meaning to us. It is beautiful and I treasure it. We got tattoos instead of a wedding band, $150 for the 2 of us. Story 38. I proposed to him with an €80 ring in 2023. We already had promise rings, which are small fidget rings, both costing around €25 when we got them in 2019. I just got a cute little ring to propose to him, and we used my promise ring as the wedding band. Story 39. No engagement ring, but our wedding bands cost €3,600 back in 2005. Although the design was the same, hers was more valuable as it contained a small diamond. She lost her ring that same year. We divorced in 2020, which was much more expensive than those rings. I still have my ring. Story 40. My grandmother left me hers. I took the stone from it and set it in a new band with tiny diamonds and filigree around it, which cost me about $3,500. The total appraisal was about $15,000 in 2016. Story 41. I made it for the cost of some salvaged copper wire and solder. She appreciates the things I make, so I made our rings. Story 42. $850 in 2006. I did not actually propose with a ring. My wife is very particular with jewelry, so I knew she would want to return it if I picked it out. Plus, I would rather she get something she would like to wear forever. We went ring shopping in the afternoon after I proposed that morning. Story 43. Retail price was about $7,000. We paid $800 on eBay for the identical set, including the ring and wedding band. Same brand, stone, size, everything new in box with papers. Celebrating 10 years soon. Story 44. 9 pigs. By the way, I recommend choosing an engagement ring with many flush-mounted diamonds rather than one elevated diamond. It is safer and less likely to fall off. I also recommend choosing lab-grown diamonds. They have no ethical concerns and are much less expensive. They have exactly the same crystal structure. If she insists on blood diamonds, then look for a different woman. Seriously. Story 45. 89 pounds in 1994. 187 pounds today. It is just a ring. Spend money on things that matter or that you need to start a life together. Story 46. Jesus Christ, you are either rich or foolish to spend that kind of money. I spent about 350 pounds, which is approximately 474 US dollars, and it took me quite a while to save up for. Story 47. I am a woman, so ignore my comment if you want only men's opinions, but I will give my 2 cents. It depends on the culture. My American friends dislike my opinion, but honestly, for me and where I live, it is unreasonable to spend so much money on a ring and make it a huge fuss. It is better to use that money for more practical purposes, such as traveling, car payments, mortgage payments, shared experiences, home renovations, investment funds, and so on. If I were a man, I would be put off by a woman demanding a specific amount to be spent on a ring or being difficult on the topic. It is a ring. Love and worth are not based on the price of a ring. Also, the future and marriage are not determined by that. But that is just my perspective. Story 48. Just over $3,000 in 2023 for a custom-designed band of 14-karat gold with laboratory-grown diamonds. Total weight is 1.8 carats, with the largest stone being 1 carat. Story 49. 600 pounds. A local jeweler crafted what she wanted at a price I could afford. I think it is pretty cool having a ring made. Story 50. $5,000 in 2002. We are still married today. The ring stays in our safe. Neither of us wears rings. Story 51. 4,500 in 2024. But as you are seeing, get what fits you and your wife's priorities. Do not follow any bogus 3 months earning rules. Story 52. $899 in 2002. She let me know it was on sale at the jewelry store in the mall as a joke. I went out and got it the same day. Story 53. 1996. 3/4 carat. Really good clarity. I don't remember the very slightly flawed clarity grade, but my uncle was a jeweler, so he purchased it for me. Total cost for the diamond and setting was $1,200, all I could afford. Story 54. $250 Etsy jeweler oxidized silver and rainbow moonstone. My wife's favorite stone. She loves it. 2013. Story 55. Answering for my husband. $0 for both the engagement and wedding rings at the time. We used a thin diamond stacking ring that I bought her for her birthday as her wedding ring. We eloped, which saved us at least $50,000 given our location and the number of people we would have to invite. I put that money towards buying her a matching engagement ring and band for our anniversary. Story 56. $19,000 retail paid, approximately $13,000 from rarecarat.com. They married in 2018, and she received her ring in 2020. She had specific requirements for the stone's cut, clarity, and shape, so it took a bit longer to get that. Story 57. We went to Tiffany & Company. The ring she liked was $22,500. I asked if I could have the same ring made because it would be more affordable if she would not mind that it did not come from Tiffany & Company. She said yes. In the Los Angeles Diamond District, I found a vendor with almost the exact same setting in white gold. I found a slightly larger diamond with Gemological Institute of America certification. The setting was $200. The stone was $4,150. I have had several pieces made for my wife by the same and other vendors in the Diamond District. When they do not have a giant store, sales associates, or a marketing budget, prices are much more reasonable. Story 58. First wife? $20,000 give or take. Current fiancé? She picked out her own ring and said she did not want a dirt diamond while we were shopping. It ended up being about $500. Guess which one I will be spending the rest of my life with. Story 59. We got an engagement tattoo ring. If we cannot wear a ring because of issues at work, then the tattoo will still be visible. Story 60. $17,000 from my ex-husband. I was so mad because I am extremely frugal and not materialistic. I would have been happy with a thrift shop ring. It was a pride thing for him. Story 61. I think it would be really interesting if answers had two parts. One, how much the ring cost, and two, whether you were still married. Story 62. I custom designed it and made it from a family heirloom. The total cost was around $2,000. The design is very unique because I drew it myself and it does not catch on things. Story 63. My first husband spent $15,000 in 2002, but admitted it was to impress and deter other men. When other women admired it, he felt successful. My current and forever husband spent much less because he knew the story. We bought Bitcoin instead and went to Mexico. Story 64. We found it in a gutter while walking on a date in the late 1980s. Not sure that is the norm though. Story 65. $10. My wife was clear that she wanted nothing gaudy or expensive whenever I did it. We are both practical with money. She absolutely loves a simple band that has some Zelda designs on it since she loves that game. Story 66. 2.8mm wide 14-karat white gold band. 18.2mm French set diamonds. 3/4 wrap around the band. Hidden halo with 16 0.9mm diamonds. No cathedral setting. 2.04-karat D-color vs 1 clarity ideal cut lab-grown diamonds. Custom made with a designer. $7,700 total cost with tax. Year 2025. Story 67. $1,200 for the engagement. $800 for the wedding band. Moissanite was chosen because my wife was against mine gemstones. Story 68. In 2019, $7,000. She now wears a fake one she bought from Amazon as her daily ring because she does not want to damage the real one. Story 69. $0. My wife did not want an engagement ring. That is when I knew I really wanted to marry her. We were talking about marriage and she said, "Oh, by the way, I would rather travel than have an engagement ring." We got married 1.5 years ago. Story 70. I paid about $1,000 in 2016. It was an engagement and wedding ring set. The engagement ring was made to go around the wedding ring, so she would always have the engagement ring too. It was simple but really pretty in my opinion. I am not sure where those rings are now because she decided she wanted a simple band instead. Now she wears a thin rose gold band, and my ring is the more ornate one. Story 71. Got custom designed matching rings for us. Like $1,200 for both engagement and wedding bands. I think she paid around $500 for mine. If you need a good jeweler, I have a guy in Alabama who will take care of you. Story 72. It was a custom 1-carat natural sapphire on a pendant of moissanite on a rose gold ring. It has additional diamond stones running down either side. Bougie but did not break the bank either. It is made by combining a pendant I got for her originally with a diamond band. She was afraid to wear the pendant because of how much it cost, so we agreed to make it a ring. Story 73. A little over 7,000 Danish kroner, approximately 1,000 US dollars. I proposed after 11 years together, 10 of which we lived together. I had learned that she was preparing a surprise party for my 30th birthday. So I bought a ring and turned the surprise around on her the moment I walked into their surprise. I asked for a moment to talk and proposed then and there in front of all of our friends. We got married about 7 months later on Halloween. Story 74. I paid $500 in 2015. The gem broke this year. I paid $2,000 to have it replaced with laboratory-created diamonds and to have earrings made with the unbroken gemstones. Story 75. Just under $6,000 back in 2007 for a 1.1-carat diamond in a platinum band. She still has it and we are somehow still married. Story 76. Do not worry about the ring. I bought version 1.0 more than 30 years ago. We upgraded it for our 20th anniversary. And now the original is kept in her jewelry cabinet. Story 77. Wife here. I picked out my own ring last year, and it was a whopping $600. It's perfect. Pear-shaped black onyx stones surrounded by moissanite stones, which look like diamonds, on a silver band. I love it so much. A year later, I have already started wearing a silicone band to replace it because it got caught on everything and accidentally scratched my husband many times. I personally didn't see the point in spending a lot of money on a ring that I would eventually lose. Instead, that money went towards our first house, which was well worth it. Also, it was the jewelry companies who made up the rule that an engagement ring should cost 3 months' salary. Story 78. $1,690. I was really stressed about what to buy for my girlfriend. Her taste is very picky, and the decision was bothering me. We were at Costco, and I asked her to show me her style in the jewelry area. After a few minutes, she said, "If you want, you can just buy me that one right there." Of course, I saw that as a miracle and purchased a beautiful wedding set that my wife absolutely loves for $1,690. Story 79. This is why I am convinced the De Beers campaign is probably the single most successful marketing campaign of all time. Diamonds very literally are not worth what people pay for them, and that was before we could grow them in a laboratory. Story 80. It's not about the value of the ring but your budget. I do very well financially, and these numbers represent a week of billing for me. The total bill was under $7,000, but it was for the engagement ring and matching wedding band. I gave her a budget of $3,000 for the setting and wedding band she wanted. She got to pick them out, and the stone was up to me to decide. She picked the cut, and I selected the size and clarity. I absolutely could have afforded more, but there is no reasonable excuse for anyone to walk around with $20,000 to $30,000 on their hands. I stand firmly on that position. I believe they should have the opportunity to pick the ring. It's an excellent test of budgeting skills, and they have to love wearing it. If you set a budget and they are pouting or complaining, let them go, because it will get far worse after they are legally entitled to half your paycheck. Love is not worth going into debt for. If that is what a woman needs, you do not need her love. Edit. Proposal in 2022 to current wife. My late wife in 2004 had a budget of about $3,000 at the time. Story 81. First of all, ignore everything jewelry companies, salespeople, and influencers say. Most notably, if they talk in terms of percentage of annual income, forget that. Walk away and don't listen to it. Also, do not put something on someone's finger that is so valuable or expensive that criminals would be willing to chop off the finger, hand, or worse to get it. Discuss it and choose something you are both comfortable with and feel good about. That is basically it. If you cannot agree on that, how do you think the marriage will go? Also, think ahead. The engagement ring represents engagement, which is temporary. After you get married, what happens with the engagement ring? It is kind of a placeholder and memento, unless it is designed to form a set with the wedding band. That brings additional considerations, complications, and downsides. So do not overcomplicate it. Story 82. $6,000. It included a lifetime guarantee. I know that may not sound like a lot, but at the time I was as dead-end a worker as you could be, making the bare minimum. It really took a lot to go that far. Story 83. We picked out her wedding set together. They cost about $1,500 at the time in 1979, the year before we wed. It had a single round cut diamond of about half a carat weight. I think it is an F color with two very slightly included one inclusions. We recently decided that after 45 years of wear, we should have new rings made. The old ones were worn pretty badly. We reused the diamond with a couple of smaller ones added to the sides. The gold and setting fee cost about $3,800, I think. My bride wanted it, so we did it. Story 84. About $20,000. She would have been happy with anything, but I wanted to do more since I had the means. I am not the norm. This is what made me happy to do for her. Buy within your means. Engagement ring prices and expectations will be different for everyone. Story 85. I wanted to show that I was worthy, and we got married later in life. I wanted to get her a 1-carat ring, so I spent $10,000. It is insured on the homeowner's policy. Story 86. Engagement ring. It was my great-grandmother's, my grandmother's, and my mother's engagement ring. It is a very classic ring with not much monetary value but massive sentimental value. as you can understand. The wedding ring cost €500 from her favorite jeweler. My wife told me not to spend anything, but I wanted to get her something nice. She does not care about money or expensive things like that. Story 87, $0. My grandma gave me her engagement ring. I don't think it was a terribly expensive ring to begin with though, just one medium-sized diamond in the center, and then the wedding band has 3 small diamonds. I think for our 10-year anniversary I'll get the whole thing inlaid with something fancier. Completely coincidentally, we got married on the same day as my grandparents did 45 years earlier as well. I was confused when my grandma was so happy about the day we landed on. The date is even engraved on the inside band of the ring too. We just never noticed. Story 88. Ring 1 was a custom design created in 1997. The setting cost about $3,500. The stones came from old family jewelry. Ring 2 was chosen a few years later. She realized it was not the proper design or setting for their lives and jobs. On vacation in 2003, they saw a tanzanite ring that she loved, costing about $5,000. She wore that ring as an engagement ring for most of the next 18 years. Could not be resized, so it no longer fits. She now alternates between Ring 1 and her grandmother's ring, wearing Ring 1 about 80% of the time. Story 89. $500 in 2019. 1920s Art Deco white gold and platinum ring with 4 equal-sized diamonds. Found online a few hours' drive from home. Went to look in person. It was a small pawn shop in a rundown mall. They were having a sale of $100 off any ring when contacted online before coming in person. We sent it to her uncle, a jeweler, for cleaning and inspection. He confirmed the metal and stones were real. Story 90. We picked out all of the rings after we decided to get married. In 1981, I think we spent under $700. A few years ago, we upgraded her ring to over $12,000, then mine as well for another $1,000, but I have lost weight and cannot keep it on. Story 91. The initial one was, I think, $35 off Amazon. Although it was a design that she specifically said she liked when we were looking at rings, we didn't realize that it had little nubs on it that would hurt her fingers while wearing it. So we got her a different engagement ring that was not physically painful to wear. That ring was right around $200, I think. Story 92. In 2010, it cost about $2,300. When I had it remade in 2024 because our 2-year-old found it and we believe flushed it, it cost about $3,000. Story 93. I want to say it was around $1,000 in 1993. What helped us was that the centerpiece diamond was from her grandmother's wedding ring. They have been married 32 years this year. Story 94. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was around $1,000. Give or take a couple hundred. I bought it in 2005. It features lower carat gold and cubic zirconia instead of a diamond, but it was custom made by an independent jeweler who helped us work within our budget. Story 95. If the ring is expensive, what are people's views on the girlfriend offering to pay half of the cost? Story 96. I bought the diamond and band separately, and the total came to $4,000. I purchased it in Delaware to avoid paying sales tax. Story 97. $352,000 a house, $1,800 in child support for 13 more years, and whatever else I bought her over that decade. So a lot. Story 98. $5,500 last week. Custom solitaire pave design hand-forged by a local designer. All lab diamonds, main was 2-carat princess cut. Story 99. 2020, $700 plus $150 for matching wedding band. Moissanite is the way to go. It is indistinguishable from diamond in appearance, and no one can tell the difference. She loves the way it sparkles. Story 100. In 2012 and 2020, I made window bars for the jewelry store. I built the bars in 2012 when I was in high school and cashed in the IOU in 2020. The invoice for the metal, labor, and installation was around $5,000. The ring was around $6,500, but the owner insisted that I did not pay the difference. Story 101. Clearance set for approximately $1,600 engagement and wedding band in 2020. Just happened to be almost exactly what she was looking for. She would have taken a cheap silver ring from Walmart if I let her. I got a few family diamonds for an upgrade in the future. Story 102, 2010 $0. Family heirloom. Go ask your grandmother. If she does not have her engagement ring to give you, that is okay. If she has one, she will probably give it to you if your fiancé is not unfaithful. Edit. Worth in 2010, $2,000. Priceless 100-year-old Old Dominion cut with 2 sapphires. Unbeatable ring. Story 103, $12,000 in 2011. It was a 1-carat, excellent clarity, platinum band, princess cut. Expensive lesson to learn, married for 2 years. Story 104. In 2021, no engagement ring was given, but $20,000 were spent on a 2-week luxurious honeymoon and a 2-month vacation in Canada. Platinum wedding rings cost $60,000 each. Engagement rings are old-fashioned and a waste of money, in my opinion. If you are going to get a ring, then get 24-karat gold so that it appreciates over time because diamonds do not. Story 105. It's surprising to see people spend this much money. I spent about $250 to get her something nice, and we chose it together. Our wedding rings were $500 each. Spending that amount of money on jewelry is excessive, especially since we could easily afford much more. Story 106. $750 from Costco. It is not a traditional wedding ring, but she does not like diamonds. For my first wife, I spent $2,400 in about 2002, but my stepfather was a jeweler and helped me get it, so I suspect I was not paying full retail. Story 107. Answering for my husband, $2,500 for mine. It has a moissanite stone with pieces of meteorite in the band. He proposed in 2022. He got his wedding ring from the same designer for $800. Story 108. About $350. I don't remember exactly. But she didn't want a diamond from the ground. She has lost rings I've given her in the past and would worry about having something expensive that she might lose. The style of the ring was more important. Story 109. My wife and I agreed from the beginning that expensive rings were not for us. Her first ring cost about $250, and a few years ago she wanted to change it, so she picked out a cubic zirconia set from Walmart that I believe was around $30. Story 110. After 18 years of common law marriage, we made it official in Hawaii in February. Just one ring. My mom sent me a ring that had been in my dad's family for 200 years. It was destoned and melted, with added gold and materials, then rebuilt into a band for me and a ring for her. It cost roughly $4,000, as she wanted a very complicated vintage design. Story 111. $1,000 in 2024. My wife is not materialistic at all, and she would love it even if it was $1. I also think she would have been upset if I had spent $10,000. That being said, we both wear silicone rings 98% of the time anyway. Story 112. Roughly $5,000 in 2018. Also, interestingly, we had it appraised after I gave it to her, and it was worth more than when I bought it. I expected it to depreciate like a car when you drive it off the lot. Apparently, that is not the case. Story 113. About $700 back in 2018. It's a beautiful moissanite ring that was custom made for her in Boston. She loves it and knows it's moissanite, and she is very happy I did not spend a fortune. Story 114, $1,100, but once my career took off, I bought her another $2,000 ring, and we used that one as our wedding ring. Story 115. I think the ring itself cost about $2,300, and the wedding band was another $1,000. This was in 2015. I had originally proposed with a family heirloom that was my mom's to do with as she pleased. But when her 2 sisters found out their mother's ring was on the finger of a Mexican girl, they threw a huge fit. My mom didn't ask for it back, but I didn't want a ring on my wife's finger for the rest of her life that had so much negativity around it, so I gave it back. We paid $3,300 for the new ring, and she got to pick it out. I gave her a ceiling of $5,000. And she saw that one and said yes, so we used the other $1,700 on an engagement vacation. She got pregnant on that trip, so even though I proposed in 2013, we didn't get married until 2018. Story 116, $2,500. There is no way I am spending more than that. She agrees. Oh, and I picked it out. I saw many men with their significant others at the jeweler's, and they looked very nervous. Story 117. Engaged in 1994 and paid $1,150 for the ring. I was working part-time and she was still in college. At the time, I had no credit and had to put the ring on layaway. It was not much by any standard, but it was all I had, and most importantly, she wore it proudly. Story 118. Proposed in 2022, and honestly, I do not have a clue. It is not a thing here to value at all. It is just a gesture, a tradition. Nobody cares about the cost, really. Story 119. 10,000 Swedish krona for engagement ring and another 17,000 Swedish krona for wedding ring. My only ring cost 2,000 Swedish krona. 9 Swedish krona equals about $1. Story 120. The first ring I got was just over $1,000. Unfortunately, there were not many choices for a wedding band that paired nicely with it because of how they set the stone. We ended up trading it for one that looked similar and paired nicely with a wedding band she loved. The set she wears today was just under $2,000 for both rings. Story 121. 10 years ago, I purchased a custom ring for about $100. It featured rose gold leaves and vines, with a small birthstone and a matching band. My tungsten ring came from Amazon and cost approximately $20. Story 122. Everyone is talking about jewelry being too expensive. You are right, because I started to buy and sell colored gemstones a few years ago from artisanal miners and dealers in Sri Lanka. I can happily state that my wife sometimes goes out wearing what would probably be $70,000 retail in 2 or 3 items. The best part is that, including fabrication, I believe I spent less than $10,000. We are not rich, but it was fun to give my wife a 3.5-carat pink sapphire ring last year after 12 years of marriage. Story 123. A couple $100. She already had a diamond from a family ring, so we bought a setting she liked and paid to have the stone removed and the diamond placed in it. Story 124. I've never been married. I've had several long-term relationships, including 7 years and a child with one partner. I've never put much value on marriage and find it difficult to understand how people justify the cost, especially nowadays when almost nobody can afford a house, at least where I live in Ontario, Canada. With that in mind, for those who spent more than $5,000, especially over $15,000 on a ring, what was the mentality? I suppose if you are a millionaire, it is not much money, but I get the impression it is not just wealthy people doing this. I make an $80,000 salary, and the idea of spending even $5,000 on a ring seems like absolute lunacy to me. How did you justify this to yourself? Was there pressure from the fiancé? Is it a family or cultural expectation? Did you feel like you had to in order to get a yes? Did you want to look good to people she shows it to? There cannot be that many people who think a ring is worth that much money to them, so I figure other factors must influence the decision. The only answer that makes sense to someone like me is that she would not say yes without it, and that would be a sign she was not the person I am looking for, so I would not do it. That raises another question. Does it not bother anyone who spent that much that your wife expected, wanted, or accepted something so irrational? Sorry, I know that sounds harsh, but unless you are a millionaire, it is irresponsible to spend that much on sparkling jewelry. I cannot imagine feeling good about being with someone who thought that was appropriate. Story 125. My wife and I have found the trick. Diamondique from QVC and similar products. We have fooled jewelry store workers with her rings before, and she pays less than $100 per ring. Story 126. $3,000 got a moissanite all around better. Looks identical to a diamond. In my opinion, the only reason to get a diamond is so you can say it is a diamond. Story 127. $8,500, 2021. Had it custom made, so it was a little more expensive. We used a wedding band to augment it rather than a different ring. My thinking was, If she is going to wear it almost every day for the rest of her life, it better be the best piece of jewelry she owns. Story 128. Nothing really. I got it from a Christmas cracker on New Year's Eve. It is green, made of plastic, and has a smiley face on it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.